Happy Veterans Day, Jeremiah. I believe we're live, ready to go with our employee wellness, Ovadia Heart Health, live stream.
Indeed, my friend. Happy Veterans Day. Happy
Yeah,
Veterans Day. Special day. Chime in if you are off work today, team, friends. And also chime in on what your weekend was all about, your long weekend. And thank you, veterans, for your service, your sacrifice. Amazing. Great to be
ab-
with you, leader, captain.
absolutely. And it seems an appropriate day on Veterans Day to be talking about movement, right? Veterans not only move across the world, but they're incredibly athletic and then hard work, both mentally and physically. But what we want to talk about today, and we love to hear your comments, please put them in the chat, whether you're on X, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, join in the chat about how can you create a culture of more movement in the workplace. Before we even get started, none of this conversation is individual medical advice. It's intended as educational only to inspire the conversation, food for thought, but it is not medical advice. Welcome to our Veterans Day live stream. And maybe one thing I want to kick off with, Jeremiah, and chime in, is there to just sort of set the stage in that we're talking about creating more movement in the place. We're not saying exactly that we're going to be putting in all kinds of structured exercise, right? There's a difference between structured exercise that would include trainings, working on balance, coordination, stretch, strength, mobility, flexibility. We're talking in the first place here of how can we get individuals in the workplace to just move a little bit more. And we often sort of get confused on some of these terms of exercise, physical activity, and movement. But our baseline level as a employee wellness program that we offer is really trying to inspire that first just movement. What do you think about that, Jeremiah?
Yeah, 100%. And to bring it back, team, that's what we're talking about today is integrating physical activity into the workplace. And Krisna saying, like, let's not go overboard and have a stretch class and Pilates going on in the middle of the facility while everybody's working. I've seen spaces like that before, by the way, but something matters and something should be done. And I like the way that you're approaching this too, from that again, special day, the militaristic approach. I some of my favorite athletes, Krista, or veterans, and the way that they approach workplace movement and momentum and mobility is incredible. I think most of them, now that I'm thinking about these guys and gals, all have standing desks.
Yeah, interesting. Right. So when we talk about that foundation of how can we get people to, in essence, just not sit the whole time. And we want to point out we have a couple white papers, one specifically on sedentary behavior in the workplace. And you can go to our webpage, ovadiahearthealth.com/wellness, where you can find actually both of our white papers. But one specific to this conversation is that breaking up sitting time, and a standing desk, if that's available to you in the workplace, can be a really great option. I'm sitting down right now, but I have the standing option. I like to have options to mix it up during the day. But what we're talking about is trying to help encourage your employees, first and foremost, to take breaks, get away from the computer. We know that those mental breaks also help us just be able to focus a little bit more, add that little sharp performance edge. You might even think about, I've heard some companies and I've helped some companies have standing meetings. And one of the big bonuses to a standing meeting is it's often a heck of a lot shorter. That's one way to keep everybody on point and not keep circling around the same sentence for too long. And those are some simple ways, taking breaks and standing meetings.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool. I haven't heard of the standing meeting concept. I bet all of my colleagues colleagues and friends that I just thinking about would be on their standing desk jamming. So I think we're good there. Love it. What what are some other things that companies could do to support employees in this movement, this momentum?
Yeah. Well, last time we spoke about enhancing communication. And, we've all gotten so used to sending a text, sending an email. I've worked with companies that have set up this sort of idea of a radius. So if something is in a radius to your office, that your first choice should be walk over and have a conversation instead of sending an email. I love this
Ooh, good one.
idea.
Good one.
That and we make jokes for years about water cooler conversations, and you're in sales, Jeremiah. You know that it's all about the contact and face to face. We need more of that these days. So maybe that's one innovative way to get people to move a little bit more.
Smart. Another smart thing to do, team. I think there's always like a parking lot or a parking garage usually where people work. Park a little bit further back, right? So that walk in is a little bit further, that walk out a little bit further. I like that, Tristan. That's solid. I've seen a couple cool things in my corporate time in history. One of my organizations really embraced this concept, and they had a small gym in the workplace, which was awesome. For a while, it was very populated and busy, and over time, it kind of waned the energy that was on some of the leadership, I think, and the way that we approach the communication. We talked about how important communication is, what's the employee wellness program is going. But we also had it was an open workspace that it was a treadmill desk that you could actually walk on, right, while you were in your meeting or, doing your work. So it had that space there available for that. And gosh, that treadmill desk was often full.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of options like that. I know call centers are utilizing the idea of the treadmill desk. And I know some people have said, well, if I'm really seriously typing and doing this, that's not the biggest option. But I think our point here is if you could have options available, especially if you're in an open space or if you're in just a closed private setting, you can have sitting options, you can have standing options. I've known that people, if they have little sort of exercise toys in the room, whether it's bands or even utilizing the wall, that encourages you to go over, do a wall squat if that's available to you, but to keep this idea that it's fresh. And I want to just touch on your point about the company gym. And some places do have that. They offer classes ongoing. When I think you will see also there'll be periods where it's quite popular or less popular. That really has to do to listening to what your employees really want. How relevant is it? And keeping tabs on that. And what other things when it comes to movement are they interested in? One company I worked with, they had quite a large base of people who were very much into the arts. And they used their one open space for dance classes, for little jam sessions and things very arts orientated. And I think when we think about movement in the workplace, we don't have to always think of sports or the usual suspects in that. What are people in your workforce interested in? And maybe even there's some people there would want to teach something or share their passion for that. Because all of these things are good for our physical health, but also really good for our mental health.
Love that. Really ties into all to what we talked about last week, Krista. Super solid. Let's go back to the leadership. What role can the leadership play in creating this friendly, workplace where, there might be some weights, there might be some standing desks, right? There is, mandates like we have a standing meeting or two every month or every week. What does that look like when leaders maybe lead by example here?
Yeah, Great question. I think it is that lead by example for sure. If your boss instigates, hey, we were really trying to tighten up our meetings here. We've got this clever idea we wanted to do. Of course, you always make accommodations for individuals who have either a physical or a mental sort of impediment that's not going to allow them. You want to make sure everybody is taken care of. But that said, if there are people, what about a 30-minute standing a meeting instead of a 60-minute sit down one? Maybe you'll get more accomplished. And I think also we talked about the communication piece, and we know flexible schedules, having that people have the time maybe to insert a little bit more movement into their schedule. Let's say, could someone come in 30 minutes late, but stay 30 minutes longer because they had the opportunity to take a longer walk or do some type of activity before? So scheduling, leading by example, and having multiple types of opportunities in the workspace available.
Solid. How can those leaders now that are out there leading by example, and maybe that's one of the ways, Chris, how can they get their employees excited about incorporating more movement into the workplace, more activities, maybe a challenge or two? What works? What are you seeing? Yeah.
Challenges work well. And when we say challenges, it's also a challenge within reason, something that's smart and attainable. It's not, you have to, get some 20,000 steps in a day or anything like that. But how could we encourage maybe a first step of challenge? Did you take 2, 5-minute mental breaks today? How about that? Because we know if people take a mental break, they generally will take a movement break. And I want to jump right into, I see someone ask a question here, Jeremiah. For employees, Tara is asking, for employees who spend most of their time at a desk or in meetings, what are some simple activities they can incorporate into their day to increase movement without interrupting their work? The workflow.
Well, I think, Krisna, like what I would do, Tara, like just right away. If you have these in Arizona where we work, we allocated 2 15-minute breaks as well as our lunch break. I would take one, if not both of those 15-minute breaks and just do a short walk around your facility or around the campus if you can. I'm not sure if your workplace is comfortable for that, but I would do a little jolt, my friend. Yeah, have a little walk and take advantage of that time. Krisna, what do you think? That's a great question, though.
Yes. And as I said, a treadmill desk isn't for everybody because they might have to do detailed things or it disrupts their focus. I
can't do a treadmill desk.
Yeah. What I just did right here, I just did a little lift my seat up off my chair and sit back down.
Nice.
And you may not be even seeing it. I'm doing a little marching step with my feet. We know these.
I can kind of see it, Krisna.
You can kind of see it, but more that it energizes me a little bit. We know these little mini, what we call metabolic sparks, and this will set us up for why we have a metabolic health focused employee wellness programs. These tiny little movements, these little interruptions can be very helpful. Now, there are even some smaller things. There's like it's not really a treadmill, a little push and pull that people can do with their feet that a lot of people have expressed that it does not disrupt their flow. But I think back to your point, what we see also, and this shows up a lot in the research, is that stepping away from your computer, even if it's for that 60 seconds, actually makes your workflow efforts increase and improve. I think it's Lerner and I'm forgetting the second person's name who actually coined the term corporate athlete. And they talked about having like mini rituals within the day to recharge your battery. And that they saw those individuals who took those little rituals were actually high performers.
So let me go back. There's a couple things here. That organization had a couple breakout sections in the building where you could go take your work to as well. So it was just that concept, Krisna, like getting up out of your space, kind of removing yourself from your silo, going to a new workstation, literally getting up and doing that. We also did a challenge, a really cool challenge, step-based challenge. It wasn't a crazy step-based challenge. It was very, like you said, realistic. We had a lot of buy-in, but I think what would have made that challenge even stronger is if some of executives came into that challenge, participated, and actually communicated with us about their experience. So challenges are incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touch on the big point. We know from history, and worksite wellness has been around for a long time. And sadly, a lot of worksite wellness programs are still a little bit stuck in a time warp of the old disease management model. We're looking at the metabolically healthy, focused programs. And if the leaders are not participating, there's no buy-in. And when it comes to more movement, historically, we know if your boss is going to sit for straight 8 hours, generally that's the pattern that most people think is what we're supposed to do. If you see your boss standing up in a meeting, or they say, she or he says at the start of the meeting, hey, no problem. If you feel like standing in this meeting, go for it. There's plenty of space. Make the space around on that. That offers the gauntlet to everyone to say it's okay to be active in that way. So I think the first step is always get those leaders to be moving around a little bit more themselves.
Yeah, I think that's such a concept too. It's just like, look, leaders, let's lead from the front, let's lead by example, let's be involved, let's be omnipresent. And I'm thinking of one of our favorite leaders in our client base that we work with. Brian, he's awesome that way. So leaders, shout out to you. Let's take the bull by the horns here. And that's a great segue into connecting with Krisna and I about your teams, your people, achievement, right? Yeah. Creating a workspace environment that allows for movement, mobility, right? For that get up and move action. So we would love to chat with you and talk strategy and dig in. The holidays are right here. The new year is right around the corner. What does that look like in your business and your organization? So book in with us. Let's have a call. Let's discuss this.
And I think it is a good time here to point out, Jeremiah, too. I think one of the struggles that many workplace programs have faced is we have kind of gone down a rabbit hole of that exercise is about weight loss. And if we can break the shackles from that in encouraging your employees to just move more, participate in the exercise programs that light their fire, whether that's a dance class or they love lifting weights in the gym, and remove this sort of prison that they put many people in and thinking that exercise is only about weight loss. And that's why we try to educate and empower people around the markers of metabolic health and a metabolically health focused program, showing all the things that you can do if you're hoping to improve your metabolic health. And thinking of movement more as the fun piece, the inspiring piece, the piece that's going to help you just be a better performer, both in life but at work.
And I want you to go through the metabolic markers again. We're going to do that on every call. I think that's important and foundation of what we do when we talk to this. So do that in just a second. But guys, it's one of the simplest, basic things that we can do. And if you can't walk, I get it. And I understand where you're coming from. We can find something else for you to get your heart blood flowing a bit more here, but just get up and walk. get up and go.
Absolutely. So true to ourselves, here they go. These are the 5 markers of metabolic health. You've got your waist circumference, blood pressure, blood glucose, triglycerides, and HDL, all of which can be tremendously enhanced through strong nutrition that focuses on low carbohydrate, low processed food, low sugar, meaning a whole foods, real diet, along with all these other pieces that can help enhance your metabolic health. One of which is moving as much as you can throughout the day, even if it's tiny, tiny little motions, like just pick your seat up off your chair and sit back down.
Nice, Krista. Well, our commitment to you guys is to stay strong here on Mondays. We'll see you next week. I have another great topic for you. But as we go, chime in. Any questions, any comments, anything before we depart for the week?
And we love to hear from you and hope to see you or hear from you on the next live stream. I think we're going to be talking a little bit more about mental health in the workplace next week again, and how, as we head into the holiday seasons, how to combat the stress that might be coming from that time.
Nice, Krista. Appreciate you, Captain, again. Much love
All right,
to everybody, and a happy Veterans Day. Thank you, team.